Pusalar Nayanar. വെരി ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് സ്റ്റോറി. ഇത് വളരെ നല്ലൊരു സ്റ്റോറിയാണ്. മനസ്സിൻ്റെ ശക്തി എന്താണെന്ന് ഇതിൽ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. മൈൻഡ് പവർ. Pusalar Nayanar had a great desire to construct a temple for Lord Shiva. He was very poor. Hence he constructed a wonderful temple for Lord Shiva within his mind. Nayanar even fixed a date for the consecration of the temple, which happened to be the same day fixed by the Pallava king for Shiva temple constructed by him. Lord Shiva appeared in the dream of the king on the day prior to the consecration day and told, consecration of the temple constructed by Pusalar Nayanar of the Tirunendrayur is fixed for tomorrow. Postpone the consecration day of the temple you have constructed. The king stopped the consecration works immediately and rushed to the Pusalar Nayanar. He felt awed to know about the temple Nayanar constructed within his mind. Pusalar Nayanar's fame spread far and wide. Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Mangayar Karasi Nayanar. Mangayar Karasi was born in the royal family of the Choras and grew up with deep love and devotion for Lord Shiva. A lady of strong and pious character, this princess of the Chola family got married to the Pandya king Nedumaran, who was also called Khoon Pandyan owing to his hunchback. Though King Nedumaran was valiant and powerful, he was misguided as he was influenced by and practiced Jainism. During that period in the Pandya kingdom, Sanatana Dharma was under the shadow of Jain philosophies. The Jain philosophies were limited in knowledge and enforced severe austerities as the only way to liberation. This was propagated as a high philosophy to the common people. To gain control over the common people, they decided to influence and convert the king himself. Soon, the temples of Shiva Perumal there were taken over by the Jains. The Jains, for whom non-violence was a basic tenet, violated that very principle. The revered Mangayar Karasi, who had unflinching love for Lord Shiva, was shocked at the state of the Pandya kingdom. She was concerned that her honorable husband was unable to enjoy the bliss of Shaivam. Her own practices were restricted by the king, who was now a staunch Jain. Though he didn't bar her from praying to Shiva, she was not allowed to use Vibhuti or Rudraksham, along with other restrictions. However, this did not stop the queen from continuing her practices. She secretly applied the Tirunir on her chest every day without anyone knowing. The queen was deeply troubled as Shaivism was the very base of the Pandya Chola Rajyams. And so, there was now the mammoth task of awakening not just the people of the kingdom, but the king himself. There was one more person, the Prime Minister Kulachirayar Nayanar, who was himself a revered Shiva Bhakta. He too was worried day and night about the moral downfall of the kingdom. These two devotees, the Queen Mangayar Karasi and the Minister Kulachirayar, kept the spark of Shaivam alive and prayed day and night for the redemption of the kingdom. Soon enough, the compassionate Lord heard their prayers, but not without severe struggles and pains. They received a message that the great saint Tirujnana Sambandar had reached Vedaranyam. Taking this as the play of Mahadeva himself, Mangayar Karasi was convinced that the only way to bring back Shaivism to her kingdom was to invite Tirujnana Sambandar here. She sent her trusted minister to the great saint, requesting his blessings and inviting him to their kingdom. The Jains, in turn, tried their best to create as many obstacles for the minister as possible so as to foil the queen's plan. Tirukjnana Sambandar accepted their request. He assured the queen that the fire of Shaivism will be reignited in Madurai and that the Lord's grace will be showered on Madurai once again. With overwhelming eagerness to salute the young saint, Mangayarkarasi informed the king that she was going to the great temple of Madurai and went to receive the saint. She also arranged for his accommodation and also for those who accompanied him. She swore upon herself to end her life if any harm were to come to them. Meanwhile, the Jains knew that their plans would be foiled if Sambandar sets foot in Madurai. They convinced the king that there was a mantra tantra wielding sage in town, and the only way to get rid of him is to set fire to his accommodation. The king Nedumaran remained silent. The Jains set fire to the house where Sambandar and some others were staying. When the fire caught on, the great saint's followers cried in desperation, asking him to leave the place. Tirujnana Sambandar was, however, nonchalant as he had unfathomable, unshakable faith on his Lord. Such was the play of the divine energies that Sambandar requested the fire to go back to the one who had sent it to attack them. And so the fire began burning the stomach of the king as a painful disease. Mangayar Karasi was caught in a dilemma whether to alleviate her husband's pain or to fight for Shaivism for the sake of her subjects. She was pulled between the need to fulfill her dharma of being a good wife or a good queen. The Jain monks stubbornly tried all their mantras to alleviate the king's pain, which were all in vain. They insisted that the king's body be divided into two halves for treatment, one half by the monks and the other half by Tirujjana Sambandar. While Sambandar's treatment began to bear fruit, the king's pain towards the Jain side began to aggravate. At this, the king beseeched the young saint to cure his whole body somehow. Tirujjana Sambandar applied the Tirunir on the king's ailment, and when he did that, the Jain monks argued that it's a bogus magical medicine. At this, Sambandar smiled and asked the queen to bring some ash from the kitchen fireplace. Chanting the holy verses that later became the profound words of the great Tirunitra Padikam, Mandiram avadu neeru, Vanavar meladu neeru, Sundaram avadu neeru, Tudikka paduvadu neeru. The holy ash that has the divine power of mantras, it is blessed by the devas, it gives beauty and is the one that is worshipped by all. Tirujnana Sambandar smeared this holy ash, chanting the holy 5 letters. That very Tirunir that the king had restricted for the queen all these years was now the cure for his ailment. He also cured Koon Pandyan's hunchback, thereby giving him the name Nindrasir Nedumaran, the king who stood upright. The queen Mangayar Karasi thus guided her disillusioned husband to live the right way of life under the guidance of Tirujnana Sambandar. Nindrasir Nedumaran, along with Mangayar Karasi, then devoted his life to Shaivism. Such was his devotion that he too came to be known as Nindrasir Nedumaran Nayanar. A kingdom thrives when the king and queen themselves thrive spiritually. Mangayar Karasi stood as a shining beacon, the most perfect example of an ideal wife and queen. In raising her husband from his disillusionment, she saved an entire kingdom from doom. As a queen, she brought back Shaivism to Madurai. As a wife, she raised her husband from Koon Pandyan to Nindrasir Nedumaran Nayanar. For us today to be born in the land where Mother Mangayar Karasi Nayanar has walked is in itself a great blessing. No doubt it requires lifetimes of punyas to be able to grasp even an iota of her bhakti. May her lessons of bhakti, patience, determination and strength stay in our mind today and always. Thank you.
Om Namah Shivaya. I'm here to tell you the story of Rudra Pashupati Nayanar. Tiruthalayur near modern day Trichy was a prominent town on fertile fields of river Kaveri and popular in its inhabitants of high ancestry flourishing together. In this town, sacrificial fires of the Brahmins rose up to the skies. The dense groves rich with blooms dripped honey. This place was the home for benevolence, righteousness, and true culture those days. Rudra Pashupati Nayanar was born at Tiruthalayur in a Brahmin family of Vedic scholars. He duly served the Lord of the Bull Mount with a heart overflowing with love. He incessantly and zealously chanted the Sri Rudram in praise of the Supreme Lord. Before the dawn of each day, responding to the twitter of the birds and the humming of the bees in the flower groves, he would betake himself to the water-bringing pool, where the flaming lotus blooms lifted their heads with leap of flashing fish at the base. Then he would get into the cool water up to his neck, fold his hand above his head, and chant the Sri Rudram in faultless accents, expressive of his love for the Lord of the matted tresses. He would repeat this chant, the essence of the Vedas, at noon and night too, without fail. In due course, the Lord decided to raise up the saint. The Lord was greatly delighted at the regular chant of the mantras in the prescribed way, with the glorious austerity of the passionate devotee, and showered his grace on him, who then reached the bounds of the immaculate abode of the Lord. By virtue of his faultless chanting of the Sri Rudram with an overflowing heart, he then found himself close to the dancing feet of the Lord. Therefore he became known in this wide world by the name Rudra Pasupatiyar. This is how the Lord of the Trident shows his grace to the loving perfect chanters of Sri Rudram. This is again one more way to reach up to him. Sri Sivarudram. Namakam Shamakam Slokas in Devanagari Sanskrit is a Hindu stotra dedicated to Rudra, taken from Yajurveda. The text is famous for its mention of the Namah Shivaya mantra. Chanting the Rudram is considered to be of great benefit as demonstrated by the life of Rudra Pasupatiyar. Om Namah Shivaya. Sivapahi.
Karaikal was an important port town of the Chola kingdom in Tamil Nadu during the 5th and 6th centuries. It was a flourishing port doing international trade with faraway lands. There was a very prominent trader named Dhanadattan who, after many austerities, had a beautiful baby girl. He named his daughter Punidavadi. From her childhood itself, she was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. She grew up to be a beautiful, devout young girl. Eventually, she was married to Paramadattan from Nagapattanam. After her marriage, her father, Dhanadattan, did not want to live away from his daughter. So he built a house for the couple near his and provided them with all wealth. Punidavadi's husband, Paramadattan, was an efficient trader and multiplied this money, so they led their lives happily. Punidavadi was a very pious devotee of Lord Shiva, as well as a very devout, loving wife, performing all the duties of family life sincerely. She served Shiva Bhaktas and wandering mendicants and provided them with whatever they needed because of her overwhelming love for the Lord Shiva. One day, some people visited Paramadattan and gave him 2 mangoes. He sent it to his wife through his servant, saying he would have it during his lunch. Punidavadi received them and kept them for her husband. Before her husband reached home, a wandering sadhu came to her house for bhiksha. Punidavadi had not finished her cooking and only rice was ready. So she served him the rice and one of the mangoes to accompany it. The sannyasi was very happy and satisfied with the rice and delicious mango and blessed her for her seva. When the husband came home for lunch, she served him his food along with the remaining mango. He enjoyed the taste of the mango so much that he asked for the second one too. She went into the kitchen as if to bring the mango, but she was very worried. She prayed to the Lord to help her. By His grace, there appeared a mango in her hand. She gave it to her husband. She gave it to her husband. Her husband asked her from where she had obtained this heavenly tasting mango. With total surrender to Lord Shiva, she told him that the Lord had given her the mango. He did not believe her and asked her to prove it by getting one more fruit from the Lord. She prayed to Shiva in all faith, saying that if the Lord did not give her the fruit, her words would be proved as lies. The fruit appeared once again, and as Paramadatan received it from Punidavadi, it disappeared. With this incident, he began to look at Punidavadi with awe and respect, as though she was a goddess, and began to call her Ammayar. He felt it was impossible to lead a householder's life with such a divine lady. He planned accordingly and left her, saying that he was going to sail to faraway lands on business. He did accordingly and earned a lot of wealth. Eventually, he returned and settled in the Pandya kingdom and got married to a local girl. They had a daughter whom he named Punidavadi because of his respect for his first wife. Meanwhile, at Karaikal, Punidavadi waited for the return of her husband, at the same time continuing her service to Shiva Bhaktas. She came to know of her husband staying in the Pandya kingdom and her relatives took her there. When the husband was informed, he, along with his wife and daughter, went to her and prostrated before her with reverence. He told her that because of his reverence towards her, he had named his daughter as Punidavadi. Punidavadi was shocked when her husband announced that he had prostrated before her because she was so divine and was like a goddess who should be worshipped. When Punidavadi heard this, she prayed to the Lord that she had no more use of this beauty of the flesh and that she should be given a skeletal ghost form. The Lord only needed to recognize the beauty that she had within her. She became totally immersed in the bhakti of Lord Shiva. She came to be called Karaikal Ammayar. She had a great desire to go to Kailas, the abode of Lord Shiva. When she reached the surroundings of the holy mountain, she was unwilling to put her feet on the holy abode of Lord Shiva. So she ascended the mountain upside down by walking on her hands. Devi, the mother of the universe, saw Karaikal Ammayar's devotion and asked Shiva, "Who is this skeletal form that climbs the holy hill on her head?" Shiva replied, "She is like a mother who takes care of me. She worshipped and obtained this form." Lord Shiva came to her and called out to her, "Amma." Lord Shiva wanted to become her child. Karaikal Amma was overjoyed and fell at his feet in utter bliss. The Lord asked her, what do you want?" She asked to be blessed with immortal, blissful love for him and to receive his never dying, loving grace and to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Even if she had to take a birth, she asked him to bless her with constant smarana of the Lord. She also asked for the blessing that she be allowed to remain under his holy feet when the Lord danced. The Lord granted her all her wishes. He instructed her to stay in the state of bliss by singing about him when he danced in the town of Tiruvalangadu. Taking his order, Karaikal Ammayar came to Tiruvalangadu, where she sang the set of hymns in his praise called Tiruvalangadu Mootha Tirupadigam. She always remained in a state of bliss and eternal happiness and finally merged with the Lord. Karaikal Ammayar lived around the 5th or 6th century before Tirunjana Sambandar, who was during the 7th century. But she is the first devotee to sing padigams called Mootha Padigams. Her Guru Puja is in the month of Meenam on Chodi Nakshatra. Karaikal Ammayar's intense, unflinching bhakti towards the Lord made her the privileged one to be addressed as Ammai by the Lord himself. In all Shiva temples among the 63 Nayanas, Karaikal Ammas is the only Nayanar who is seated and all others are standing because Shiva sees her as his mother. And she was also given the boon to be able to witness and sing in ecstasy the Lord's divine cosmic dance. Her life teaches us that all the social and physical obstacles that will invariably come in the path of liberation should only strengthen our intense love for the Lord. This will reach us to the ultimate bliss and liberation that each one of us is seeking.